Welcome back to the 2022 recaps and previews by M-SABR. Today I'm here with
Lucas, I'm a Dodgers fan.
Jack, Tigers fan.
all right, and I'm Nolan. I'm the host. I'm a Cardinals fan, and be sure to check out our articles in the description, and we have timestamps there as well. We're gonna do an overview of each team and then predictions at the end. First team we're gonna look at is the Giants. All right, the first team we're gonna look at is the Giants. Their starting lineup is Mike Yastrzemski, Tommy La Stella, Brandon Crawford, Brandon Belt, Darren Ruff, Jock Peterson, Wilmer Flores, Steven Duggar, and Joey Bart. And what did they do this offseason? They lose Kevin Gausman, Chris Bryant, Donovan Solano, Buster Posey, and Jay Jackson. But they pick up Carlos Rodon, Matthew Boyd, Jock Peterson, Jakob Yunis, and Alex Cobb. So overall, I think they got worse this offseason with the loss of Posey. And I'm not too certain that their platoon strategy is going to work again, but they did get Carlos Rodon, who a lot of people are high on. I'm a fan of Jock Peterson. Love the Pearls. I don't know. What do you guys have to say about the Giants?
If you would have read me that lineup 2-3 years ago, I would have said this is a fourth place team. This is one of the worst teams in the league. I am of the opinion right now that while this is not the best team in the NL West, I think it's the Dodgers. This is a team who's arguably set up better than any other team in the MLB. Not only because they have good players now who are going to make an impact, but their farm system is deep. They got Helio Ramos. They got oh my goodness, who's their shortstop prospect? Who I'm forgetting his name. I remember his name, but he's insane. He had like 119 mile an hour exit velo in spring training, minor league spring training last year. They are going to be great. I think they're going to be
Gamboa.
What?
Is it like Gamboa? Eric Kimides Gamboa?
Marco Luciano.
Marco Luciano. That's
Yeah.
right.
Oh, I have
Luciano
Luciano right
really
here
good.
too. Oh,
Luciano's
good.
a beast. I think Joey Bart's going to do well. I think bottom line, their coaching staff is so good that it elevates this team above whatever you think the true talent of these players are. I think the most underrated signing of this entire year, and what may turn out to be the greatest signing of this year, is Darren Ruff for 2 years, $2.25 million. He had like a 140 WRC plus last year. He absolutely raked. With the DH, I think that benefits them more than anyone else in the division. That guy can flat out hit. The way that they've changed the Monte Wade Jr. swing, Brandon Crawford swing. I saw them working on Yastrzemski's swing over the offseason. Tom Listella's even gotten better. I think this team is unstoppable. With the coaching staff that they have, I'm really excited. As a Dodgers fan, I'm terrified. As a baseball fan, I'm really excited to see what they can do with Joey Bart. And good God, Logan Webb is terrifying to face. I think
cutter.
I think he could win a Cy Young. I think his two-seam is unhittable. He could just throw a two-seam and a slider, and he could be insane. And Rodon's just going to make him better. Boyd's just going to make him better. And they've got a bunch of young guys in the pen with Doval who can throw triple digits. I mean, Tyler Rogers is great. Jake McGee can throw 95% fastballs, and he's going to have a sub-3 ERA. I think they're just littered with talent. And the coaching staff that's going to, again, make them play up exponentially.
This team was magic in magic in a bottle last season. The pitching staff only probably got better with Logan Webb playing a full season again. Carlos Rodon hopefully is healthy, is amazing. Desclafani's back. Alex Wood is great. Alex Cobb and Matt Boyd are great depth. But I have one big concern for this team, and that's Buster Posey. I don't know. I think the loss of Buster Posey will affect this team more than anyone else is expecting. And I don't know if they'll be able to pull off the lightning in the bottle whole shebang that they had last season where they pulled in front of the Dodgers. They're going to be a good team. Mike Yastrzemski, Brandon Crawford, Brandon Belt, they still have a solid lineup. They're probably going to make the playoffs. I'm just not sold without Buster Posey, without Gausman. I'm not sold on them being a contender this year.
Okay, I can hear that argument. I just wanted to point out, pitching wise, yes, their future, the sky is the limit, and also Slater isn't too old, but like their entire lineup outside of Joey Bart. Oh yeah, Joey Bart's young, Duggar's pretty young, but everyone else is 30 plus. They're kind of getting up there, so the window might not be forever unless they can make some good signings. I mean, I know you said they've got some prospects, but they would need to make a couple signings in order to stay competitive in like 2 years. So I would say yes, their window probably remains open for this season and next season. That's how I see it, at least. But if any of these guys like Crawford or Belt start to finally, or Ruff even, finally get caught up to with their age, then could go away faster than we want as baseball fans. But the pitching staff's just crazy. Like all 5 of these guys, 30, like, Alex Cobb's 34 and he's their oldest guy. So I love the pitching staff. And let's talk about the bullpen. Jake McGee, Tyler Rogers, Doval, Garcia. These guys are all, they can handle their business. Brebbia, they can handle business. And we saw that last regular season. And they held up in the playoffs pretty well, but obviously the Dodgers are quite the animal to try to take on. So, oh yeah, and then Boyd, for some reason, he's on their IL, so I didn't add him in. Yeah, very well built roster pitching wise, and pitching will keep you in. I think pitching is guaranteed to get you into the dance, and then it's great to have a big, like, top 4 rotation, and they have that as well. So definitely, I see them as a contender, but I can understand an argument for why they wouldn't be.
Yeah, I think one of the really interesting questions going forward for the Giants is the catcher position. I am really excited about Bart, but they did draft in 2020, I believe, Patrick Bailey, the first-round pick, and that does somewhat indicate that they either attempt to trade Bart or trade Bailey or move their positions. And with Darren and John Peterson at the DH, it doesn't seem to be that they would go there anytime soon. Belt retires, you might be able to see Bart go to first. But I think they got a trade piece there. I think they can essentially see how Bart does, and if he doesn't do great, he still has value. He's young, he's under team control, he's been a prospect for a while. You can bring up Bailey next year and have Casale, who's a good defensive catcher, work that position. But I think they're good this year. I think they're great in 3 years. I really do. I think this is a team, like I said, I think this is a team that just will play up. Last year, what was their projection? People had them as low as like
around 500.
Yeah, as low as like 75 to 80 wins, and they won 107 games. So
absolutely crazy.
That's absurd. That's got to be one of the biggest gaps ever in projected to actual win totals. So I think John Peterson's going to break out this year. He's my breakout candidate for this group. I know he's been working. His swing has gone back and forth. He's a real pull heavy guy with that wall and right. I think that's going to be helpful. I think he'll get some splash hits this year. But I would also not be surprised if you see Mike Yastrzemski come into his own. I think he's a guy who took a step back a little bit last year, really hyped in 2020, and kind of was covered by a really talented hitting-wise Giants team last year. I think he's going to step up, and I think not MVP, he's not going to be one of the best hitters in the league, but I think he'll be a solid 130 to high 130s or low 140s WRC plus guy who can man right field or center when Duggar isn't in center.
I mean, it's in his blood.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree on the Yastrzemski. He's a monster.
Former Dodger. Yep. All right. I think we covered the Giants pretty well. We're gonna have to discuss whether we think they can win 107 later on in the video, but definitely still a very scary contender. Let's move on to the clear favorites to win the World Series, the Dodgers. And we are back with Lucas's team, the Dodgers. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner, Max Muncy, Justin Turner, Will Smith, Chris Taylor, Cody Bellinger, Gavin Lux. No, I did not read the NL All-Stars. That was their starting lineup. And here is what they did this offseason. They lost Max Scherzer. They lost Corey Seager. They lost Kenley Jansen. They lost Joe Kelly. They lost Corey Knebel. And they lost A.J. Pollock. For most teams, that sounds like they sold at the deadline or something, but that's not what happened. Dodgers signed Hanser Alberto. They pick up Tyler Anderson, Freddie Freeman, Daniel Hudson, Andrew Heaney, and Craig Kimbrell. So still one of the best teams that I've ever seen. Terrifying lineup, terrifying roster. We should just go through the rotation while we're here. We've got Walker Buehler. We've got Clayton Kershaw, Julio Urias, Tony Gonsolin, and Andrew Heaney. They also picked up Kimbrell to be the ninth inning guy, I assume. They still have David Price in the bullpen. Technically, they still have Bauer on the roster, or not on the roster, but just on the team. And Dustin May is probably out the whole season, right?
I think Dustin May is slated to come back about halfway through the year, so he'll be in there, but they'll start him slow. He'll start in the pen.
So that makes it even better. What do you have to say about your team?
I mean, it's hard to start somewhere. I'm just going to start actually with something I didn't like that they did, because there are not many of those. But and that is the trade of A.J. Pollock for Craig Kimbrell, which I actually was not a huge fan of. I feel like it exposes Bellinger and Taylor as kind of their only options in the outfield. The Dodgers have really valued depth over top positional talent, which sounds crazy because they have it, but they have really valued guys like Kike Hernandez, guys like Zach McKinstry, Gavin Lux playing the outfield some, Max Muncy, all these guys, Chris Taylor, all these guys can play all around. So because they know that injuries are random and can happen at any time. And so just putting those two guys in center and left, with really no safety net except for Gavin Lux and Kevin Pillar, I guess. That is to me a antithetical to what the Dodgers have preached. I love getting Kimbrell, but I am actually of the mindset that their rotation is their relief corps is not actually horrible. Without Kimbrell, you have Trinan, Gratterall, Vesia, Daniel Hudson, who not too long ago was the star of the 2019 Nationals bullpen, really the only guy they could bring out of that pen, besides Sean Doolittle. Phil Bickford, who's really good this year, who's my personal favorite Dodger. And Tommy Kahnle, who was great last time. They signed him on a 2-year deal last year, knowing that he would not be in for 2021. And Danny Duffy, who they re-signed. So I think without Kimbrell, that's not including Kimbrell, they have a top 5 pen in baseball. With Kimbrell, they're probably number 1. As you could say they are number 1 for starting pitcher. You can say they are number 1 for the lineup. But there's a couple interesting things for this year that I think non-Dodger people should look out for. One, there's the obvious, will Cody Bellinger do well? This is kind of the year to see if that 2019 year was a fluke, or if he's actually that type of player, or somewhere in between. I think he's somewhere in between. I think he can be a good player, but I would not be surprised if he continues to perform the way he has if he's dealt at the deadline. Not for prospects, but for starting rotation depth, and possibly someone who can man the outfield as well. Also, Gavin Lux. It's going to be really interesting. Gavin Lux got hyped up as a prospect in AAA because he raked for Oklahoma City. But he was a first-round pick. He was a later first-round pick, though, and he was not really a highly touted prospect until he got to AAA and hit 400 and had an OPS of over like 1,100. He was crazy in AAA. But before that, he was a mid-30s to 40s on the top 100 list. He was regarded as good, but not great. And so I think expectations have soared for Gavin Lux, whose true talent is probably more of a, 1 or 2 all-star type of guy, but you're looking at 2 to 3 WAR per season, maybe a 4. So it'll be interesting to see if he is that, or if that AAA guy can actually come out and he could be the perennial all-star that everyone thought he was going to be. Max Muncy being back is huge. That's huge. He's a great hitter. And I actually think that he might man second base some and first base. Some depth charts say Freeman's going to be at first 94% of the time. I think they're going to split it, not evenly, but a little bit more than the 94 and 3% that's projected. I also think Justin Turner is going to see the DH. He's not a good fielder anymore. He's slowing down, and his arm's not as accurate, and he's just not as good of a fielder. And he's still a good hitter, but I think he will see DH more, and I think you'll see possibly Lux go to third, try Turner go to third. They might try Muncy at third. They tried Muncy at third last year a bit. I think they're going to try to investigate with some stuff there. The starting pitching, I will say, and I won't get into politics, but I hope and pray that the Dodgers do the right thing and that Trevor Bauer does not pick up a baseball in Dodger Stadium for the Los Angeles Dodgers. I hope that does not happen. But it might. It would suck, but it might happen. But I'm not going to talk about that because that's outside of baseball stuff. The starting pitching rotation they have of Buehler, Urias, Kershaw is great. That's a great top 3. Kershaw's a little iffy on injury, but that's a great top 3. After that, it drops off a bit. They're kind of top heavy. Tony Gonsolin has been good in the past. He's been injured recently. Tyler Anderson has been fine. Danny Duffy can pitch. Andrew Heaney's peripherals last year were good. There's some stuff they like. He's not a terrible pitcher like Yankees fans want to tell you. But aside from those top 3, there's not a lockdown guy in there like they used to have when they had Greinke and Ryu and Kershaw and Maeda. They used to have a way better starting rotation than they do now. I think you'll see Clayton Beeter or Pepio up, who are their top pitching prospects. I think Clayton Beeter is a guy out of Louisville, I think, can hit like 100 miles an hour. He's really good. And I think they will investigate, kind of try out a couple of these prospects because although the Dodgers are great at development, I don't know if that Tyler Anderson, Tony Gonsolin, and Andrew Heaney mix is going to give them the type of production that they need to be the 105, 106 win team.
Let's hear from Jack.
This team was absolutely built to win the World Series. I mean, look, they're going to perform amazingly in the regular season, no matter how well Bellinger does. But this team is so deep in the lineup, has so much depth in the outfield. The pitching staff is three men deep. Goslin and whoever pitches that 5 spot is a bit of a concern, but that doesn't matter in the playoffs. This team, no matter if they're the 1 seed, if they're the 2 seed going into the ALDS, is going to kill teams in the playoffs, and I think they are the true World Series winners this year, unless something goes horribly wrong. Mark my words, something will go horribly wrong. It's hard to imagine this team losing. Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner, Max Muncy's back, Justin Turner, I just keep naming players that would be the best player on another team. I haven't even mentioned Mookie Betts. I can't imagine this team losing. I just can't.
Jack, you're making me smile. I love it. Man. This is great.
No, I hate the Dodgers. I love Freddie Freebaum. I love Trey Turner. I love Max Muncy. I hate the Dodgers. I love Mookie.
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about this team, but I do feel that they are unequivocally the best team in baseball.
Yes. All right. That's the correct take. The problem, I mean, if you're going to beat them in the playoffs, which is a discussion we can have in September, but right now I'll just give you kind of what I think the model to beat them would be. It's going to be pitching primarily, because if you don't have good pitching, they have 12 runs and you already lost. So you need pitching. That's the number one aspect of the team. I think defense would be pretty important. Obviously, I'm not trying to describe the Cardinals as though some people might think that, but defense is too, and then you have to be able to. I think home runs would be important. So that's not a Cardinals thing, but just a team that has defense, pitching, and homers, because their pitching is going to be great. So you're not going to get a bunch of base runners all the time. So if you can just tack on some homers, get 4 runs, and then have great, absolutely outstanding pitching, like pretty much 2019 Nationals is what I'm describing. Something like that might be able to kind of get him out, even though no one would expect it. And then obviously an injury would not. Without Pollock, that was my exact take. Like Lucas pretty much said my exact take when I saw that trade. I was like, oh, they went for the like all or nothing route, because what I would have done is played it safe, right? Keep your guy on the bench, maybe try to get a bullpen member in some other way, but you don't want to sacrifice the depth of a lineup when you're already the like clear favorite. So I thought that was kind of a risky move that was unnecessary. But
that's just how good the Dodgers are.
Yeah.
You have to plan how to beat them to get to the World Series.
Exactly. To
win the World Series.
I also just want to say just a quick little thing just about the future. The Athletic released their top organizations in terms of farm systems. The Dodgers were number 1. I do not agree with that. I don't think they're the number 1 system. I don't even think they're the number 2 system. They're definitely in top 5, but I think it's some form of Mariners and Orioles. But that's a different thing. I do, however, think that the Dodgers have the best catching prospect in all of baseball. And I will stand by this. I will do a predictions with stakes, Nolan. I will eat hot wings on this one. I think Diego Cartaya, who is ranked 38th in Fangraph's board, and behind, I think it's 4 other catchers, I think he's the best catching prospect in baseball. He had a 152 WRC plus. Granted, it was an A-ball, Rancho Cucamonga. And I am a little biased because I went to a game and I watched him hit an absolute nuke 450 to center. But this kid is like 19 or 20. He can frame. He's a beast. He's like 6'5". He's athletic. He can run. He can hit. As a Dodgers fan, I love it. But as a baseball fan, I think they are so good at developing and finding prospects that it's a problem. I think they're just so dang good at it. Everyone could have signed Diego Cartaya, and they didn't. The Dodgers signed him. Everyone could have drafted Gavin Lux. Everyone could have drafted Corey Seager. These guys were drafted in the late rounds, in the late picks of the first round. It's not like they were bad and they got a guy. The Dodgers are so good at getting guys who will be good in the future, who will be top tier, not like organizational depth, but just like amazing. Zach McKinstry, who will play a role for them. He's not great, but he'll play a role. He'll be a role player for them. He'll be a utility guy. They really wanted him to be a Chris Taylor, but that's not in his future. He's a 33rd round pick. And that happens occasionally, but they're just out of this world with how they can still be good and turn up prospects that are throwing 100 and are striking 12 guys out per 9 or hitting, projected to hit 40 home runs in a season at the catching position. I mean, it's absurd. I don't think they have the number 1 farm system in baseball, but I think they have the number 1 development system in baseball. And I don't see them not challenging for the top of this division for the next 10 years. I don't ever see them regressing below a 2nd or a 3rd.
Okay, I need to make this clear. Do you think that Diego Cartaya is a better prospect than Adley Rutschman?
Yes.
Okay,
No,
well, we'll see. We'll see about that one. He's made it clear. We'll see about that one in the
no,
future.
wait, hold on. I forgot about Adley. Hold on, I forgot about Adley. I think he's better than Francisco Alvarez and Gabriel Moreno.
Okay.
I don't think he's better than Adley.
I
That
have
would
to
be
make
insane.
something clear.
No, he's not better than Adley. He's not better than Julio. He's not better than Bobby Witt Jr. No, but he is top 10. No, you're right. I mean, Jack was right. That was crazy to say.
I was holding that in the entire time.
I completely forgot about Adley. But outside of that, outside of the a generational talent, yeah, I think he's the best catching prospect in baseball.
Yeah, when you look at prospects, I mean, if you want a pitcher, you go to the Rays. If you want an outfielder, you go to the Cardinals. But if you want a player, you go to the Dodgers, right? Because they have all of them. So it's like, I don't know. That's how I see it, at least. But the Orioles, they're about to bring up these guys, but they finally seem to have something. But it doesn't appear to any of us that they're going to be contending anytime soon. But that's a whole different video. Are we good with what we said about this all-star team?
I'm very happy.
All right.
I'm sad that Freddie Freeman's on the Dodgers.
Just one tiny brief thing. The Dodgers have made some great moves. They traded away O'Neal Cruz and Yordan Alvarez. So imagine this team with the 8th best prospect in baseball and Yordan Alvarez.
I'm glad I don't have to.
They traded Yordan. They traded both of those. They traded O'Neal Cruz for Tony Watson, and they traded Yordan for Josh Field. So they were both for relievers.
They seem to like to trade for relievers. They might not have a good development system for relief pitchers, huh?
Even with those, those would be horrible mistakes. Those would be Shane Baz level mistakes, Pirates level mistakes. But they still come out on top. It's absurd. I don't know how they do it. Anyways, that's my little spiel. Go Dodgers.
And then I don't know, 40 wins below them. We got San Diego. All right, we're back with the Padres. We know they lost Fernando for a little while here, but their current starting lineup is Trent Grisham, Manny Machado, Jake Cronenworth, Luke Voigt, Eric Hosmer, Will Myers, Austin Nola, Jurickson Profar, and Ha-Seong Kim. And then what did they do this offseason? They lost Pham, lost Melanson, lost Hudson, and lost Frazier. Picked up Manaya, picked up Beatty, picked up Luis Garcia, picked up Nick Martinez, and picked up Luke Voigt. So everything they lost, they pretty much fixed. So it's pretty much the same team as far as I'm concerned. But just like last year, they're going to be missing Fernando for a significant period of the season, and I'm worried that takes them out of playoff contention. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about the team.
I mean, to me, the big thing is the starting rotation. I saw some graphic somewhere that was like, is this the best starting rotation in baseball? With Musgrove, Manaya, Darvish, Snell, and Clevenger. Darvish was great in 2020, but after they cracked on sticky stuff, he has not been very good. Musgrove was good, but fine. Manaya is good, but fine. Snell has had a rocky time. I think he finished the season okay, but and Clevenger's been good, but he's been hurt. And I think Clevenger went back on the IL. Don't quote me on that, but I think he did. And so,
yeah, he did.
And Mackenzie Gore was going to be the next big guy, and they might look to trade him. I mean, Mackenzie Gore has really struggled in the minors. I think he was the number 4 prospect. He was the number 1 pitching prospect in baseball for a while. So this team's going to hit some. I mean, they've got good hitters. Eric Hosmer. But I just don't know if they're going to have the starting rotation to be able to stay in games. I mean, and they have a decent lineup, but without Tatis, I think Ha-Seong Kim's going to get better this year. But without Tatis, and with Trent Grisham taking a step back offensively, I would not. We'll get to the Rockies in a second. I would not be surprised if this team is finishing below the Rockies. I'm just not sure that it can compete.
This team definitely has a problem with mediocrity. You don't see with these other top tier teams all these players that are just below average. You see these types of players on the Marlins, on the Orioles, on the Pirates. Austin Nola, Jurickson Profar, Ha-Seong Kim, even Trent Grisham now, he's struggling to hit in the latter half of the season. They traded for Luke Voigt. Their starting rotation is probably above average, but again, like Lucas says, holds no true ace like you'd like to see in a top tier team, especially one that's going to compete in the playoffs. Without Fernando Tatis Jr., there's a huge concern that this team is just going to be average. It looks like a 400 team. Hopefully he returns soon and hopefully he can bring some life to the team. But without him, I just don't see this team competing, even with the Giants, for second in the division.
Yeah. Nolan, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I see them. Like, if you lose your superstar for half the season and then you're already kind of thin in the lineup, like there's kind of a line where we draw behind Machado, really, where they aren't holding up with the rest of the division, and then you have some decent hitters down the lineup, but it's like, I don't know. I don't see them.
There's a lot of hitters that you're hoping for a bounce back year from, and you can't just hope for bounce back years.
Yeah, you can't hope for bounce back years all the way down your lineup. But I mean, I will say I'm a little bit higher on their pitching staff. I think Darvish, I don't expect too much from Darvish and Snell, but I do like Musgrove. I like Manaea. Those two will keep them. They'll be probably the primary reasons that they stay up at around average, and then maybe you get Fernando and you just try to piece together a run. I'm not super high on the team, especially after how they looked in the second half of last season. But I mean, at least their bullpen doesn't look too much worse because they signed some guys to try to address it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Just looking at Austin Nola, they're projected to be their starting catcher. I was interested because it seemed he did well in Seattle and then struggled when he came to San Diego. And granted, the park factors do have San Diego as the second worst hitting ballpark in the MLB, which is odd. I did not expect that. That was for 2020, so it may have changed a little bit. And Seattle is about average. So you would expect some regression when Nola transferred, when he went down south. But in 2019, Nola had an OPS of just under 800. First half of 2020 with Seattle, he had an OPS of 904. He goes down south to San Diego, has an OPS of 705. Next year, whole season in San Diego, OPS of 716. I am not saying that the Padres are not smart. Padres are extremely smart. They've done a great job getting prospects. They traded for Fernando Tatis Jr., trading away James Shields. I mean, that's the steal of the century. They're extremely good at what they do. I think their hitting philosophy is wrong somewhere. Eric Hosmer was due for regression. He hit a lot of ground balls, but his decline is so sharp, it's crazy. I mean, he was as good a hitter as Matt Beatty, who they just traded for last year. That's insane. I think there's something, whatever they teach hitting-wise seems to be the wrong thing. It just seems to me that they cannot get guys. They keep taking these projects, Jurickson Profar, Ha-Seong Kim, was good in the KBO, but Trent Grisham, who had one good year with them and then regressed. Will Myers, who has not been able to be like that 130 WRC plus guy he was with Tampa Bay when he won the Rookie of the Year. He hasn't been above like 115, which is fine, but it just seems like they can't, aside from Jake Cronenworth, they can't seem to develop hitters from fine to good or from good to great. And I think they're going to continue to struggle with that. I think that's tough when you have guys, people are saying they should bring CJ Abrams up, who's a shortstop prospect. That'd be great. Problem is you have a loaded infield. But if you bring CJ Abrams up and he starts hitting great and then you start teaching him some stuff and he regresses, I mean, like that's Francisco Mejia was supposed to be this great catcher for them and he just never developed with them. And now he's in Tampa Bay and he's doing great. And I think I praise the Giants coaches because I think they really elevate the team above the true talent. I think they extract everything they can out of those hitters and out of those pitchers. And I think the Padres don't do the opposite, but they go in the opposite direction. I think they have really good talent. They've done a great job trading for great talent. I think they just have to change something development-wise because clearly they have all the pieces. They have the players have the track record. It just hasn't come to fruition. And I don't know when it will.
Yeah, there's one man that can save this team. It's not Fernando Tatis Jr. It's not Manny Machado. It's Bob Melvin.
He's there. Yeah. I mean, getting, what was their previous manager? Getting him out? What was his name? Oh, goodness. I should know this.
Someone's looking it up. Yeah.
I got it.
You don't know it because he was bad.
Yeah.
I got Bob Melvin.
Jace Tingler. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
Perhaps that's the move they needed to make to win.
What I see,
I think that could be a really underrated move. Yeah.
I mean, if it's coaching, that'd be great for them. But what I see within like their hitting, as you were talking about, I think they might teach power, but they might not teach hitting.
Yeah.
Because they hit a lot of home runs as a team, but they don't do much else from what I've seen. So Cronenworth is the only guy who kind of has this really cool, like, he can do anything. He's Jake Cronenworth, but
hey, he's a Michigan guy. He can do anything.
Yeah. Go Blue Boys. But yeah, I think we kind of said what we said our piece on the Padres. Let's take a look at fourth place with the Rockies. All right, we are back with the Colorado Rockies. Their starting lineup this season will be Charlie Blackmon, Chris Bryant, Ryan McMahon, CJ Cron, Brendan Rodgers, Randall Grichuk, Jose Iglesias, Sam's Hilliard, and Elias Diaz. What did they do this offseason? Well, they lost Raimel Tapia, Trevor Story, and John Gray, and they picked up Randall Grichuk, Chris Bryant, and Chad Kuhl. So everyone seems to be just a little confused as to what in the world they were doing exactly, but they did replace their star, so Chris Bryant's going to be their new ticket getter. And they have Jose Iglesias, which I think is a weird move. Randall Grichuk, another weird move. Grichuk might be a line drive guy because that's how I remember him for the Cardinals, so that might help him hit home runs in Colorado. I do not understand Jose Iglesias, though. He's a defensive shortstop. Is that going to work in Colorado? I don't think so, but what do you guys think about this roster?
I am not as down on this Colorado Rockies roster and their future as maybe I should be. I think the Ryan McMahon signing was really solid. I think he's a really good player and kind of underrated there. CJ Cron has actually hit well for them. Brendan Rodgers hopefully will come into his own. Grichuk, I think, is a good cores pick. Why they traded away, why they didn't just trade 1-for-1 with Tapia, I don't know, but that's a small thing. Obviously, Chris Bryant is Chris Bryant. He's going to be great. But I think they have Zach Veen coming up, who's expected to come up next year, who's their top prospect, and one of the top prospects in baseball, and he's a right fielder. And so I'm going to rule Charlie Blackmon out of playing right field right now. Obviously, he's a terrible fielder and a subpar hitter. He's not going to be their future. And I looking at their starting rotation, Herman Marquez is good. Senzatella is fine. Kyle Freeland isn't great. But Austin Gomber has done pretty well for them. And they have a couple guys down low. They have Ryan Rollison, who's a top prospect. They snuck Jaden Hill, who I know was injured for LSU last year, but he was in the contention for a first overall pick before he got injured. And they were able to grab him. So I don't think their window is next year or the year after, but I think if in a couple of years, if Chris Bryant can hold on, I don't think they're in as bad a position as people think they are. With the Dodgers at the top of the division, you're kind of gunning for the wild card, but expanded playoffs helps with that. But I would not be surprised if this team returns to the playoffs sooner than people expect with, that terrible Arenado deal and the confusing release, essentially, of Trevor Story and John Gray. Why you don't just get prospects for those guys, I don't know. That does not make sense to me. But I think they're not in a horrible position, but I may be one of few in that regard.
So Lucas is sipping the juice a bit. He believes in the Rockies, which I don't tend to do. Huh? I just don't see it. They have this season. I especially don't see it. I mean, they just have holes in the lineup. Certain Sam Hilliard, Elias Diaz, Jose Iglesias. They're obviously not moving for a big playoff push this year, and they're not going to get it. I mean, they're a below average team. They're starting Chad Kuhl, if that tells you anything. But I also don't see it for the future. Their starting pitcher group is and looks to be poor in the future. Unless they make some big additions to that pitching group in the next year or two, I don't think they're deep there. I don't think they're good there. And I can't see this team competing. Zach Vien's a good prospect. Ryan Rolston's a good prospect. And they're both going to hit. But with as average as a lineup as they have now, an aging lineup, with as poor of a pitching group as they have, Herman Marquez, you have to question how long is he going to be there? Kyle Freeland, below average now. He's going to be off the team in a couple of years. Senzatella is a good pitcher. You like to have him there. Gomber's been solid, and you just don't have Amanda in the 5 spot. There's so many questions, and they just don't have the answers. So I can't give my support to the Rockies as of now. It's not been the absolute dumpster fire that we've seen in the past, but they haven't exactly done enough to put my trust in them.
Yep. I agree with Jack's take on the team, at least for the next few seasons, but I did really like Austin Gomber for the Cardinals in 2019. He was maybe my favorite guy that we had as kind of he could start, but he was primarily out of our bullpen. He did not have control issues ever. He would put it in the zone, and that is just something you need for late games when you have a lead. You need a guy like that, and we lost him, and we paid for it. And as much as we loved Arenado last year, the team performed worse than 2019 because we didn't have a guy who could control his stuff out of the pen. So I do like Gomber, but also, the Arenado deal, why you gotta, say that's a bad deal? It's a great deal. At least for me,
Yeah, for you. A while ago, I don't remember where I heard this. I think it was on Fangraphs, effectively wild. But so they were talking about the Rocky struggles. And they were saying, there could be something with trying to construct a team that plays really, really well at home. Specifically for the Rockies, because their home is so drastically different than any really other ballpark in the MLB. And then plays 500 on the road. That as a thought experiment, you could maybe get undervalued guys who play really well in Coors Field for whatever reason, pitchers, hitters, defenders, and then play average or just good enough on the road to sneak you in. The Rockies were a 600 team at home last year, winning percentage-wise. They won 48 games. I think they were 3rd or 4th in the league. Now, is that a fluke? Absolutely, it may have been a fluke. They were terrible on the road. They were 26-54. They were horrible. But maybe I just want to believe that because there's it's at high elevation. You could do something, but I'm hoping that they can continue that home dominance. I remember the Dodgers playing them at the end at home, and like they were a good team. They were tough to beat. I'm hoping they can continue that home dominance and possibly bring that thought experiment to life and maybe try to sneak into the playoffs every year with undervalued guys that don't work on any other team except, they have pitches that work at high altitude. You can get really, really good fielders who, can cover a lot of ground. And I think that would be interesting to see. I think that would be, I'm not convinced they can pull it off. But I am hopeful, if not just because they have been pathetic for a while in terms of management. And I really like their color scheme. So there's that. And they have the tools, like they have the stuff. I mean, they developed Nolan Arenado, they developed Senzatella, and they've done a really good job keeping him. I think they stole Senzatella from the Braves. The pieces are there. And the thought experiment is there. And the oddity of Coors Field, I think, can be used to their advantage. They got new ownership and are new. They got taken over by their new GM. And I think they're expanding their analytics department. I think they have a chance. I am higher on the Rockies going forward. I think they can be really smart about it. And like if I were hired to work for a team, the Rockies would be in my top 5. I think there's some interesting stuff going on there. And I am more optimistic than some, but I think it could be a fun team going forward.
I think that's the coolest thought experiment I've ever heard, to be honest with you. Like, just put together the home team, and then they wear purple and black. They're just straight up unique. And then they hit line drives. They would probably want fast outfielders who hit line drives. I can understand, and then obviously the high altitude pitchers. I can understand how that would be potentially one of the most unique and consistent, well-built teams if they can figure out exactly what their home field does.
Yeah, which is fun. I mean, that would be a really just overall fun team to watch.
I almost want to do let's make a video about it like that. I mean, that home stadium's awesome. But that said, let's take a look at the Diamondbacks, who might be able to do some similar stuff with Arizona, but it's a little different. But we'll talk about it. And the last team, not too entertaining, but it's the Arizona Diamondbacks. Why is there a Goldschmidt highlight? Whatever. Dalton Varsho, Ketel Marte, David Peralta, Christian Walker, Pavin Smith, Carson Kelly, Seth Beer, Drew Ellis, and Gerald Perdomo. I probably mispronounced that one. But this offseason, they didn't lose any positive WAR players, but they did add Jordan Luplow, Ian Kennedy, and Mark Melanson. So maybe they get a little better, but I still don't really see them realistically contending. They still have Madison Bumgarner, Zach Gallen, Zach Davies, Merrill Kelly, and that's it, I guess, as of now for their starting rotation. So I don't know who their 5th starter is. It's not listed. Yeah, at least they have a decent bullpen now, so that'll add a couple wins to their season, but I don't know. What do you guys have to say about this team?
I mean, they were the silver lining for them this offseason was the DH rule. Without that, Seth Beer has no position. I mean, with it, Seth Beer has no position, but without it, he at least can play DH. And he's a really good hitter, so they were going to have to trade him to an AL team. So that's good that they can utilize him. They can use one of their prospects. Geraldo Perdomo was really highly touted as a prospect, and I don't think he's going to pan out. He's a fine hitter and not a great defender. Nick Ahmed continues to be, undervalued and amazing at defense. Can't really hit very much. I'm just not quite sure where they go from here. The starting rotation is very below average. Their star is Ketel Marte. And they have a lot of holes, and I'm just not entirely sure how they're gonna get significantly better. I think fundamentally they're in the depths of a rebuild, and it's going to be 3 or 4 years until they get guys who are going to help them compete.
Yeah, what happened is they gave out bad contracts. It bit them in the butt, and now they have a bad squad. It's not the worst squad in the MLB, but it's near that bottom tier. They don't have a lot of top level young players. Again, Ketel Marte is a good player. David Peralta is a good player. Aside from that, they don't have much hope for the future. Dalton Varsho is maybe a long-term guy. Seth Beer now DH, like Lucas said. The pitching staff looks quite a bit better than last year, just getting Zach Allen back from injury. But it just doesn't. It's not a good team, and they don't have a lot of hope. They're at the start of a rebuild, which is hard to say because they haven't been good for 5 years. But it's going to be a long time before the Diamondbacks are a good team again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just kind of briefly looking at their top prospects, it's Alec Thomas, Corbin Carroll, and Jordan Lawler. Jordan Lawler was a solid pick last year. He was in contention for one first overall, but they have no pitching prospects, and I just don't know. I don't know how they get better, significantly pitching wise.
Yeah, as of now, they only have one good pitcher for the future, and that's Zach Allen. His arbitration will be up by the time that they're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows where this team's at? Who knows where they'll be at in the future? And we're going to have to wait 4 to 5 years before we'll see if this rebuild will plan out.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about this team as a whole. I will say, Pavin Smith at home, I really like him. For some reason, he hits really well in Arizona, and he crushed the Cardinals in our games there. I'm high on Pavin Smith, but the rest of the team, I don't know. I mean, at least the bottom of their lineup's young, so maybe these guys all develop and they might be able to put something together. But in this division, just like the AL East, the top of these divisions are just, I mean, it's not as bad as the AL East is for the Orioles, but it'll be a while, probably, as you guys said, 5 years until we really see anything from the Diamondbacks. So Diamondbacks fans, hang in there. Feel bad for you right now, but you did win a World Series in since 2000, so that's cool.
Yeah, I just the one thing, and it's easy to see. I have talked about what I think of the Orioles and their position, and the Diamondbacks and their position, but we could have said this about the Astros and the depths of their rebuild in 2012 when they were getting. I think they had one game where they had 0 recorded viewers on TV, and they had the butt slide, which was the highlight of their entire 2013 season, which is a great highlight. But teams do this. This is the thing to do, and you go as deep down as far down as you can, and then you build back up. And so for the Orioles, for the Diamondbacks, just in general, it's a bad team. It's not going to win a lot of games, but they have a good top 3 hitting wise. If they develop a couple pitching prospects, trade for a couple pitchers, I would not be surprised, if we're looking back, if they turn into something like the Astros and we look back and we go, wow, that was a really bad 4 or 5 year stretch, but that's what they had to do because they're not the Dodgers, they're not the Yankees, they're not a big market team, and they have to do this, we go down really far and in order to get back up really high, which is a bigger thing about baseball in general. But I think this is what they feel is necessary, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them that they're putting out Josh Rojas and Pavin Smith in the starting lineup. I think that's what you have to do, in order to compete with the Dodgers and the Giants and the Yankees and the Red Sox and stuff like that.
Yep. I mean, I remember watching an Astros game when they were losing over 100 games as a result of my grandpa who played for him. He got us some cool event tickets, but yeah, they weren't really doing anything, and they really just needed that move out of the NL Central, which at the time was just locked up by the Cardinals every year. It was like really hard to compete at the time, and then they were able to build something. And so if you lose a lot of games, just know the worse it hurts now, the better it'll feel later when it turns into really good picks, assuming you're in a good organization. So
yeah, I mean, how many people berated them and the Cubs for, being historically horrible? And now there was a book written about, I mean, cheating scandal notwithstanding, there was a book written about them. All their guys are getting hired everywhere, and they're, heralded as this genius organization. And I would not be surprised if we're talking about the Diamondbacks like that in, granted, 6 to 7 years, but somewhere down the road.
All right, let's move on. Let's pick this division. All right, we are back to pick this division. I'm realizing that I might be underestimating the Dodgers, given how many times how much I picked them to win in the first month. Yeah, I'm way underestimating the Dodgers with this prediction. I'm actually going to say right now, this is not my Dodgers prediction, but this is what I have on the screen, just so everybody knows. Dodgers 97-65, Giants 90-72, Padres 85-77, Rockies 69-93, Diamondbacks 55-107. And I'm going to say Padres are going to do worse than that. I made these picks like a couple weeks ago. Padres will do worse than that. Rockies will do better than that. Dodgers will do better than that. Giants, I think I'll have them at about 90. I'm okay with that. Diamondbacks, they'll be right around 55-107. I'm okay with that as well. But what do you guys have to say about this division?
I'm going to go, obviously, top Dodgers. Even if I didn't think it was the Dodgers, I'm going to say the Dodgers. But I do think it's the Dodgers. And the Giants, I think the Giants are around 95-97, but I agree with you that they won't be the 107 team or whatever they were last year. I think the Padres in third. But I think it's going to end up around, the Padres finished 3 games above the Rockies last year. I think it might be the same. And more because the Padres are bad than the Rockies are good. I think the Padres could finish under 500 again. Not drastically, but around the same 80-82, 81-81, around that, with the Rockies finishing in the high 70s, and the Diamondbacks coming in, around the 50. I think they could break the 60 mark this year, but around that.
Look, we're all talking shit on the Padres, and we continue to talk shit on the Padres. You know what? They're finishing second in the division. They're better than the Giants.
Oh, damn.
Nah. Yeah, Bob Melvin is carrying this team on his back. Second in the division. They're making the playoffs. Giants may make the expanded playoffs. Padres are going to finish above the Giants. I believe in the team. When they get Tatis back, they're going to be just as good as the Dodgers. Lock it in.
Wow.
I love that. I love that.
I love that pick too. I mean, I don't agree with it. I severely disagree with it, but I love the pick.
Guess what Vegas had? Vegas had Padres at 86.5, and this was 2 weeks ago, but they had the Padres at 86.5, Giants at 85.5. So they agree with Jack. I don't.
Wait, I cannot vote, but I cannot gamble, but if I could gamble, I'd hammer the over on the Giants.
You could definitely gamble. It's 18.
They have them 20 games.
Just go online.
Lower than last season, the Giants. Dude, do you guys really think the Giants fall off 20 games from last season?
Not at all. Not even a smidge.
I think Posey's a big deal. I have them 17 games below last season, but that's still 90 wins into the playoffs. And I think the Padres will barely miss the playoffs. And this is to make room for my 2-2-2. I really do think the NL is going to split them. It's going to be Braves and either Phillies or Mets, and then Brewers and Cardinals, and then you get Dodgers, and Giants. That's what I have. But I'm much more confident in my playoff teams, plus or minus like Padres, Mets, like from Phillies. But than I am in like my division picks, because like Cardinals and Brewers, that I really think it'll be close. But yeah, that's how we see this division. Anything you want to close it out on? Just to go Dodgers. What?
I love the pick. Go Dodgers. Yeah, right. We did just lose kind of embarrassingly to the Angels, but we'll be okay.
That is indeed not going to count to your record, so you'll be fine.
It will not. It will not. Well, thank God.
All right. Thank everybody for participating and watching this, because this is the end of the final episode. Thank you guys for getting through it. If you didn't watch this last, we have 5 other divisions that we went through. Make sure to check out AL East. Lucas is there too if you like him. And Jack was in the AL Central, so there you go.
I was in the NL East.
Oh wait,
got the Marlins. Yeah, it's the Marlins.
Oh yeah, you came second. Okay, you came. Yeah. I filmed those back to back. He was in the NL East. My bad. Yeah, I remember now. But yeah, feel free to check all those out. We're also going to do a video on the extra inning rule and predictions with stakes. I also did with Lucas. Probably wait for episode 2 on that one, maybe, but definitely see what I picked for episode 1 as to why I'm gonna probably be eating wings in a month. But
you definitely will be eating wings in a month.
But yeah, thank everybody for watching. Click through, and we'll see you guys next time on the channel.